Hey everybody, how you guys doing today? If you guys are in here, I need everybody just to start throwing in which part of Texas you guys are from before we dive into our presentation for today. So if you guys can do me a huge favor and just part of Texas you guys are from, that would be greatly appreciated. Use the chat, and then we'll get started with the presentation here in about 1 minute. Hello? All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and get started with the presentation. So hang on 1 second. All right. All right. Is everybody ready for an interesting continuing education course? So how many of you guys have done virtual CEs? Has anybody done any virtual CEs in the past? How many of you have been to a virtual CE? I need you guys to utilize the chat because we will be using this for the course credits. So if you guys could do me a huge favor and just let us know you're here. I see a handful of you guys in the room. Need you guys to utilize the chat over to the right. Please enable the chat and let us know if you've attended one of our virtual CEs in the past or a virtual CE in general in the past. All right, guys, we're going to dive into the presentation. Hey, Anthony, it's not allowing me to pull up the slides. There we go. All right, guys. So this presentation is called Get Your Money Right. Now, a lot of people in real estate, they want to learn about things that are actually going to add value to their bottom line, things that are going to actually help you guys yield money or revenue in your pocket. And that's what we're here to teach you guys today. So this particular course is called Get Your Money Right. This is a how-to investment guide to how to actually get your money out of the market into real property and into real assets such as real estate. So we're going to teach you guys how to do this stuff today. I need you guys to engage with us in the chat. If you don't, we're not going to be able to give you credit for the course. So if you do me a huge favor, throw a hello or something over in the comments section to the right. I would greatly appreciate that. So if you guys could do me a huge favor and just throw in the chat. I see a handful of you guys are in the room, but I haven't seen any engagement. There we go. Hi, Nakia. But anyways, guys, before we dive in, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of my background. So I've been in the wealth management real estate investor for 10 of those 14 years. So I understand your world very well. Before I go into that, I want to teach you guys about who I am, why am I qualified to teach you guys on this topic, and where's my background. So I grew up in rural Columbus, Ohio, outside of Columbus in the sticks. I came from very humble beginnings. So a lot of the real estate professionals that we work with across the country can relate to this, but I didn't grow up rich. I grew up in a single parent household. My mom worked 2 jobs just to, get us by, keep us afloat, if you will. As a kid, we were on food stamps. It wasn't all rainbows and butterflies. It was tough, and but that was normal for me. And so I grew up in a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house. I know in Texas this looks like a mansion ranch, but in Ohio this is a little shoebox, 850 square feet. And my mom struggled to keep this roof over our heads. I was the first person in my family to graduate from college. So if you guys graduated from college and you have a degree that you use or a useless degree, please throw that in the chat and just tell us where you went to school in Texas, or if you didn't go in Texas and you went somewhere else, please let us know. Go ahead and throw in the chat where you went to school. So I graduated in 2011. It took me 5 years to get through school. I was an average student. I wasn't smarter than anybody. I didn't have some, 4.5 GPA or anything. I was an average student at an average university. Got my first job in corporate America in 2011. And I went and worked for a company called Designer Shoe Warehouse Corporate, DSW, if you guys have ever bought shoes from there. And I went in their marketing department, and my entire goal was to learn marketing, learn corporate America, and see if I could build something that, would provide me with some kind of a leeway for my future. And so like a lot of my real estate agent clients, my first year in the business, I had what's called a performance review. How many of you guys have had a performance review? How many of you worked in corporate America and had a performance review? If you have, please throw it in the chat. I need you guys to be using the chat so I know you're paying attention. So I had my first performance review, and I quickly realized that corporate America was not going to be for me. The reason being was I was one of those people that was always the first person in, the last person to leave. And I did a lot of my team members' jobs as well. And what ended up happening was I had my first performance review, and all of us scored in the exact same category. So we were all going to get the exact same raise, and I wasn't very comfortable with that. So I decided that corporate America was not going to be for me. I needed to find something where I was compensated based on the merit or the efforts that I put forth. So I started looking into industries, and at the time, real estate was very overly saturated. And I ended up hiring a career consultant, and that career consultant narrowed it down to med device sales and financial services. And what I found out about myself was that I had white coat fever. So I did not do well going into a hospital or into a doctor's office. So I decided to get into financial services. Okay. And got into financial services. And but at the same time, I wasn't doing very well when I first started out. So how many people in this room have been dead broke or flat busted as a real estate agent? How many of you guys have been dead broke, flat busted, struggling as an agent? If you guys have, please throw in the chat. Yes, I've struggled. Yes, I've had a rough go. So in 2013, 2014, I was pledging my next paycheck to CheckSmart, to a check casher place, before I ever signed a client. So again, my business has not always been rainbows and butterflies. It hasn't always been an easy road. It was challenging, to say the least. I call this my rock bottom time frame, quite figuratively and quite literally. I was living in a basement apartment, 1 bedroom, 1 bath basement apartment in the worst ghetto in Columbus, Ohio at the time. My rent was $475 per month. I had one window and one stovetop burner that worked, where I could cook my ramen noodles and hot dogs. And it was a rough time. But at the same time, I decided I had belief in myself. So what I decided to do was I decided to go out and open up my own office and start my own brokerage. So in 2014, I opened up my own brokerage, all this furniture that you guys see in these photos. And I had unwavering belief in myself. And so I knew that I was going to be successful because I had nothing to lose. Where I was, it couldn't get any worse. And so I opened up my own office and I kind of went out on my own journey. 2015, I started making some money. My business stabilized and I wasn't married. I didn't have any kids at the time. I was in my, mid to late 20s. And I started to practice what I preach. So I'm a big, they talk about all the different things that they do. A lot of people, it's kind of like the old shoe cobbler saying, the shoe cobbler with crappy shoes. A lot of financial advisors do not practice what they're selling you guys or what they're real estate. I wanted to understand real estate inside and out. Okay. And so I wanted to be able to talk to my clients. We now manage portfolios for 700 real estate professionals between the state of Texas, Florida, and the state of Ohio. And so I started house hacking. So how many of you guys know what house hacking is? If you guys know what house hacking is, please throw it in the chat. What is a house hack? What does a real estate professional do when they do house hacking? Please throw that in the chat. It'd be greatly, greatly appreciated. Does anybody know what house hacking is? House hacking is the practice where you acquire a property, you use sweat equity, you move to that property. That's what house hacking is. So I started doing that. So I did that for a couple of years in a row, and it transformed my life. What's going on here? Why is this not clicking over to the next slide? Come on. Oh. One second, guys. Presentations get. But anyways, what I was going to tell you guys, I went from 0 to 100 real quick. So in a handful of years, me and my wife, we went from 0 properties to we acquired 53 units over the last 7.5, 8 years. So we now own 53 doors individually. We don't have any business partners on it. So we always say we went from 0 to 100 real quick. That said, we've done everything from all, fix and flip. We've done everything from light cosmetic work all the way up to full rehabs or full guts. And, we've really focused on concentration. So buying in certain areas and building around those particular areas. But we've done everything from light, moderate work to very extensive work. And that said, our team continues to grow as well. We now have 12 full-time professionals that work gets for themselves so they can have their own portfolios as well. I also got married. I had 3 children in the last 5 years. My son was born the day that the pandemic started, March 18th, 2020. I apologize for the presentation. There's something wrong with the back end, but we will get that corrected for the next one. And so you guys are probably wondering, well, what the heck does this have anything to do with real estate? What does this have anything to do with continuing education? It has everything to do with continuing education. It has everything to do with real estate. The other thing I was going to tell you is we don't live in a shoebox anymore. We did acquire our forever home in 2020. So I'm no longer in a basement apartment. Me and my wife and our kids, we got a 6,500 square foot house. We gutted it. We renovated it before we moved into it. And the reason why I'm sharing all this stuff with you guys is because you guys are probably wondering, well, what does this have anything to do with real estate? What does it have anything to do with, being a real estate professional, continuing education credit? What I want to tell you guys is I am not special. I do not possess any kind of skill. I do not have anything that anybody in this room does not possess. All of you are real estate professionals. All of you have a launch pad that you guys can take and use for your future in any way that you guys want. And what I'm here to do is to tell you guys how to take where you're at today and help you guys get to where you want to end up ultimately tomorrow, but in the quickest fashion possible with the minimal amount of tax impact to your future as humanly possible. So who here in this room wants to learn how to acquire rental properties? If you guys want to buy rentals, throw it in the chat. Who here wants to learn? Did you guys know real estate agents, the National Association of Realtors, NAR, posted this last year that 64% of active licensees in the country do not own a home. People that own real estate license or people that have a real estate license do not own a home. So majority of the people that are in your industry that are selling houses don't even own a house. Okay. How many of you guys want to buy a rental property? How many of you guys would like to put yourself in a position where you're financially independent, where every 2 weeks, whether you sell a house or not, you're still living in the home that you're living in and your cars are still taken care of and so on and so forth? Well, if you said yes to any of those questions, we're going to learn about how to do that today. Okay. So that's my promise to you over the next 25 minutes. So stressors du jour. These are the things that real estate professionals struggle with and have struggled with over the past decade. Okay. So, and this kind of will give you some context around all of that stuff. So first and foremost, the volatile global economy, the changing job market, and student loan debt. Well, what does that have anything to do with real estate? Well, the volatile global economy has changed very, very rapidly, even just over the last 6 months. But in your world, in the real estate world, I can tell you how it's changed over the last couple of years. So you guys literally into markets 50, 100, 150,000 above asking price. People were waiving contingencies. They were doing anything they could to get into them, paying cash, closing in 3 days. That has changed. Now there's an inventory problem. You have too much inventory, not enough people to move to your area. It has slowed down in Austin. I have clients in Austin that have said, Ed, this first quarter was one of the worst quarters I've had in the last 5 years because California isn't exiting in droves like they were. Florida's the same way. You guys are starting to sit on inventory a little bit longer. Interest rates are kind of holding you guys back. The changing job market. Okay. In Texas, the job market has shifted. You guys had a booming economy over the last couple of years with a lot of tech companies moving into your area. A lot of those companies are now starting to turn to AI. AI has been a big buzzword that has pushed people out of moving markets and different things like that. Separately, in the real estate industry, what we've also seen is we've also seen that you real estate professionals, you guys are starting to depend on AI yourself. So we're not seeing as big of shifts in that space as we were. And so we're seeing a lot of changes there. Did you guys know that out in Arizona, not even, 2 states away from you guys, some of the companies you guys are paying advertising dollars to are actually building out, a application that goes on your smartphone that literally you guys can enter in all your mortgage information. You can get approved for a mortgage. And once you have the full approval from the mortgage company, you can actually go to a show and go without an agent being a part of the equation. And you can go walk the home and put in an offer on the home directly from your smartphone without even being a part of any of these equations. So we're seeing a lot of these different. So there's literally the companies that you guys are paying for advertising dollars are literally trying to put you guys out of business. And we're seeing a lot more of that stuff happen. Lastly, student loan debt. If you're under the age of 40 and you're in this room, you probably went to school. You probably are struggling with paying back some or all of those loans if you haven't done so already. If you're over the age of 40, it's consumer debt. It's going to be credit cards. It's going to be things like that. So these are the things that have held real estate agents back over the last decade and are amplifying why you guys are not getting to and through financial independence quicker. So what am I going to teach you guys about today? And I know that was a long-winded opening, but I do have a lot of stuff I want to cover in the next 30 minutes. So what I'm going to teach you guys, different financial concerns real estate professionals have. I'm going to teach you guys about the phases of saving. I'm going to teach you guys about the financial lessons that I learned going in my personal financial journey. And then I'm also going to give you guys different action ideas that you can utilize today, you can take with you today and implement in your strategy and actually be able to go out and make something happen with respect to your own personal, unique situation, and make an impact on your future now. So we're going to go through that today, and we'll walk through all that. So first and foremost, who here in the room is paying for school, paying down student loans? Who here is concerned with meeting your day-to-day expenses? Who here is hoping to buy a house? Okay. Who here is hoping to invest in real estate? If you guys answered yes to any of these questions, please throw it in the chat and say, yes, I'm very, very interested in X, Y, or Z. We're going to teach you these things. Who here is hoping to be able to retire or eventually be in a financial independence position? If you answered yes, again, to any of these, this is going to be a very, very powerful course for you, okay? So most of the agents that we're working with, they are all paying for their homes, paying their student loans down while preparing for tomorrow, saving for the trip, saving for the bag, saving for their first home, multiple homes, or even eventually retirement, okay? Now, if you're a broker and you're in the room, I know there's a couple brokers that are joining us today. This is a very, very, very important slide for you, okay? This slide is probably the most important slide. And the reason being, it says, this is what happens. So I get this question quite frequently when I get a new agent that's new to the real estate business and they're curious, I just got paid. What do I do with my paycheck? Okay. What is the first thing I should do with my paycheck? And most agents, they get paid. They have no idea what to do. So what are you to do as a new agent? So this is kind of the simple framework to set yourself up for success. So if you don't take anything from this presentation, please at least take this slide. So let's just say you're in $1,000 commission on a piece of property that's sold. Okay. So first and foremost, 25% of your money. I was raised under the old generation where, every single person, you had to pay yourself first. Okay. So when you first get paid, the most important thing to do for yourself is to pay yourself first. So 25% of your income should go into an account for your future, your savings, investments, real estate purchases, that kind of stuff. So this is the top left. This is going to be the gray. Okay. We don't want to live like my significant other. My wife, I always joke and say that she suffers from this horrible disease that is plaguing America. We all have these things called smartphones, and smartphones have been a great gift, but they've also been a terrible curse. So my wife suffers from this disease called Amazonitis. I don't know if you guys have anybody in your family that suffers from it, but basically what it does is you push a couple buttons on your phone and then magically a bunch of boxes show up at your doorstep and they won't go away. There's nothing to cure this. There's no vaccine or anything like that to get rid of it. So don't know if you guys have any family members that are suffering from this stuff, but it is nasty. So you've got to get hip with paying yourself first. You don't want to live, you don't want to live in that spend now, save what's left. You want to save first, spend what's left. Second rung, this blue over here in the top right, is going to be your Uncle Sam bucket. Okay. Every single person in this country has to pay taxes. Okay. We live in one of the few nations in the world where you can get your hand cut off. You can go to prison for years for evading the tax man. So we've got to make sure 25% of our income is going to taxes. And then this bottom rung down here, this bottom orange piece of the pie is 50% of our income. And you want to set aside 50% of your income to live off of. Okay. So this is going to be things like your home expenses. This is going to be your rent, mortgage, childcare, all that stuff. If you guys look at this, believe it or not, your paycheck, it kind of looks like a smiley face. So your paycheck is happy when you guys manage your own capital this way. Now I'm going to take it a step further for you guys. So I use a 3 bucketing system for my savings. And this is what I set up for most of my agents. The reason why I like this is it simplifies and takes the mystery out of saving for your future. Okay. So you've got to have money in each one of these buckets. You've got to have money in a short-term bucket. You've got to have money in a midterm bucket. You've got to have money in a long-term bucket. I don't care which one you guys choose underneath these. You just have to have money in one of each of these types of buckets. Okay. And I'm going to explain each of them, what they do, why they're important. So short-term is going to be money that's readily available, liquid, accessible cash. This is going to be capital that we can get to within a business day. It's very liquid. It's not going to grow by a heck of a lot of money, but it's there for us when we need it, no matter what. Okay. This is going to be things like your cash, your bank accounts, your brokerage accounts, your CDs, or your money market. Okay. These are going to be relatively low in growth. They're going to be high in liquidity. Okay. Then you're going to have your midterm bucket. Your midterm bucket is going to be money that you can access within 3 to 5 business days. You gotta ask permission to get access to these. Typically, you got to call on your broker, your institution, but they're readily available, liquid, just like short-term capital, maybe an extra day or two. And in addition to that, these are going to grow by a higher amount than your bank accounts, your money markets, that kind of stuff. You're going to get somewhere between a 4 and 10% rate of return on these assets, depending on where you put it. And then you're going to have your long-term. These are going to be assets that are not readily liquid or readily accessible or readily available. These are going to encompass things like your 401ks, your traditional IRAs, your SEP IRAs, your simple IRAs, your Roth IRAs. These are going to encompass things like your variable annuities, your pensions, Social Security, real estate. That's what these things are going to encompass. And, the reason why these are going to be more long-term is because they're not liquid. You can't access the money that's inside of these very quickly. Okay. So you want to know kind of how these things operate, how these things work. But that's typically how they're going to work. So you want to have a 3 bucketing system. You're going to have a little bit of money in each one of these types of buckets. Okay. Now, during your phases of saving, you've got to have, you've got to have some stamina, you've got to have determination, you've got to have patience, and you've got to have some focus. Okay. Now, if you're young and you're in the real estate career, you're getting off the starting blocks in your 20s and 30s. You want to spend a lot of time growing your income, progressing in your career. I always say if you're young and you're in real estate, it's called niche to rich, okay? A lot of agents don't understand this, but if you're older and you're in real estate, okay, you may be able to get away with not having to be specific in your industry. The reason being is because you've already found success. You've already got enough clients, all that kind of stuff. If you're younger and you're in real estate, in order to stand out, you've really got to set yourself apart. You've got to focus on one area. My top agents in the state of Texas that I work with, they all have a niche that they work in. I've got a guy that does $20 million and up apartment communities only. He makes over $1 million a year every single year because he's hyper focused. If you call him up and you're like, hey, I got a $14 million apartment community, he's going to say it's below his pay grade. I don't mess with it. He's going to farm it out. Okay. I got a guy that works in the northern part of Dallas in a couple of the suburbs. He won't go outside of those suburbs. He does $1 million homes and up. So all my most highest earning real estate professionals in the country, they all have a niche. You want to start to pay off your debts. You want to start to build up that equity, save for your first home or your first investment property, and start to systematically build your own personal bucketing system for the future. Okay. Now, as you're getting off the starting blocks, if you're the age 25, this is the amount of money you want to be putting away on a monthly basis in order to become a millionaire by the time you hit age 65. Okay. So at age 25, you only have to put away about $381 per month in order to get to $1 million at age 65. That number jumps up more than double to 820 at age 35. At age 45, it jumps up more than double again. And now you're at, $1,920 per month. And if you're 55 and older and you have not started saving for the future, the number jumps up to $5,778 per month in order to become a millionaire by age 65. So basically what I want you to get out of this slide is the earlier you start, the less you have to put away. And it compounds into more and more and more and more money. So when you're getting off the starting block, start early, make it automatic. The best day to start is yesterday. Second best day to start is today. So if you haven't started, get started. Okay. Now, what you guys all came here for, I'm going to provide you 3 opportunities to grow your real estate portfolio without spending any of your cash. Okay. I'm going to give you guys 3 opportunities that a lot of my investors utilize. And some of these I've utilized for my own properties. And these are to acquire pieces of real estate with little to no out-of-pocket expense or money out of your pocket. Okay. I did just get a question in the private chat of how are you guys getting credit for these courses? At the end, I will put a link inside of the chat, and you guys will be able to utilize that link to go and enter in your information to make sure that you get credit through the state. So I will put that up at the end of the presentation. So I just wanted you guys to know that so you didn't think that you were sitting here for nothing. But there are 3 methods we're going to talk about today. The first method we're going to talk about is called OPM, other people's money or hard money. The next method we're going to talk about is called the infinite banking concept. We're going to talk about cash value life insurance and how to leverage against it or utilize capital against it. We're going to talk about brokerage accounts, investing money in the stock market, and how can you actually use those stocks to acquire you things that make you more money, and lines of credit against assets that you own. Now I'm going to go from most conservative over to most aggressive. Okay. Reason why I do that is because I know how my Texans are. There's a lot of conservative people in Texas. And so I want to start out with most conservative, and we will work our way up to most aggressive as time goes on. Okay. First thing we're going to start with here, the traditional way. So this is how most of you guys are teaching your clients to acquire rental properties. Okay. Most of you guys are acquiring rental properties this way. I'm not saying this is the wrong way. this is the wrong way to do it, but this is what I call the Dave Ramsey method. Okay. This is the slowest way to prosperity. It's the slowest way to get to where you want to end up. It's not saying that it won't work. It's just a very slow methodology. So this is called the single or the traditional way. Okay. Now, most people, you guys are telling your clients, save up 15 to 25% down payment. You buy the property. You're only buying one at a time because it's very hard to save up, especially in Texas, for a lot of properties. 15 to 20, you buy a $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 property, you got to have 50, 60 grand in the bank before you can acquire it. And maybe you're potentially down the road, you refinance part of it or all the money out. You may be able to put a little bit into it, but not a lot. This puts strain on savings. It also, the time frame to scale is extremely difficult. And your opportunity cost is rough. Okay. Give me a second here. So we're going to start out with the most conservative methodology. This is called the infinite banking concept. You guys may have seen this. You guys may have seen this on YouTube, TikTok, that kind of stuff. So I don't know if you guys knew this, but banks are the largest holders of life insurance in the world. Okay. Banks buy permanent life insurance as a yield product. They hold it on their balance sheet. And they buy it because it competes against other assets that they would own. Treasury notes, T-bills, 10-year treasury, that kind of stuff. These insurance companies, they will actually guarantee you a yield on your product, on the product that they sell you, somewhere between 2 and 4 percentage points per year. Okay. In addition to that, if the carrier happens to have a profit, the profits are all distributed out to the policyholders. Policyholders own the company in form of a tax-favored or tax-free dividend, okay? And the dividends right now that we're seeing in the market space, that we're seeing in this space particularly, is around 6 to 6.5%. So for easy math purposes, you're getting a 4% guarantee plus a 6% dividend. So you're getting a 10% rate of return, completely risk-free, not tied or correlated to the stock market at all. Okay. Then once your money's inside of that particular asset, what you can do is you can pull that money out and spend it like cash. Okay. Just like you would a bank account. Or what a lot of savvy investors will do is banks will actually lend this money back to you at a lower cost of funds than what your money is growing by inside the policy. So believe it or not, your money can grow by a larger amount than what your borrowing costs are. So think about it like you own a house free and clear, and you have a HELOC on that property, and the house value goes up by 10% every year, and the HELOC costs you 3 or 4%. So right now, the cost of funds to borrow from these types of plans is between 4 and 6%. So you could be netting out 6, 7, 8% a year, having your money parked here versus having it in a checking account. And you could still utilize all that capital. So what it effectively does is it allows for you to split your dollar in two and grow it in two places at the exact same time. The banks will actually allow for you to get access to between 95 and 100% of the money you have inside of the policy. And so you take that capital out and you spend it on a piece of real estate or a down payment on a piece of real estate. You spend it on renovation expense. And then what happens is after 6 months and 1 day, you do what's called a cash out refinance. You pull all your money out of that piece of property, you put it back into your line of credit or back into your policy, and you recycle it. So what it allows for you to do is to save your money in one place, one time, but it allows for you to grow your money in two places at the exact same time on that single purpose dollar. Okay. Which is massive. It's huge for somebody in your situation. So if you're somebody who's like, hey, I want to put money into a 401k, I don't want to touch it until I'm, age 60 or beyond. This is not going term will out earn, but this is going, if you're somebody who wants to work and pay for retirement through cash flow and those kinds of things, this is going to be a massive opportunity for somebody who's never. Oh, okay. The next one we're going to talk about is a little bit more of a moderate approach. Okay. So did you guys know the exact same method that I just mentioned you can use with your own personal investment strategy? So did you guys know that you guys can digital stocks, you guys can buy ETFs, you guys can buy mutual funds, and you can take those dollars and you can actually do the exact same thing. So Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, Nationwide Insurance, a lot of these companies will allow for us to get access to between 50 and 70% of the money that we have available to us in our brokerage accounts. So you put your money in your brokerage account, you invest in the market starts to grow. You can borrow against between 50 and 70% of that capital, and you can do it, and you take that money and you use it to go buy you things like real estate that are going to make you guys more money. So you take that capital, you put it into real estate, and you fix up the property, you get it rented, you fix it up, cash out, refinance, and you rinse and repeat. Reason why this is a little bit more moderate, you can't get access to all of your capital. You get access to a portion of it. The reason why you can't get access to all of it is because these companies, they know that stocks go up, stocks go down. With this tariff war and everything that's going on, they've erred on the side of caution and haven't been, giving as much access to capital as they have in prior times. But this is also a very, stable and safe methodology. Okay. The one thing that I'll caution you guys is don't let the Great Recession rule you guys, okay? A lot of people get confused by these things, but the markets over a long period of time, they have a way of doing exceptionally well. So don't freak out if the markets drop. Stay the course. Keep doing what you're doing, and life will move on, right? There's a lot of people out there that try and time markets. I always tell people to stay the course. There's 3 financial economists called Brinston B. Bauer and Hood. They won the Nobel Prize for Financial Economics. And what they did was they proved that modern portfolio theory could actually take you really, really far in life. The reason why I say this is because a lot of people try and time markets. I've had a lot of clients over the last 6 months that have called us and said, hey, markets are starting to drop. What should we do? Should we get out? Should we liquidate? Should we move to cash? The answer is no. You got to stay the course, okay? The reason being here, okay, is because if you had invested $100,000 in the market in the S&P 500 in January of 2007, okay, January of 2007, and you rode the wave, okay? By January 2009, your investment would have been almost cut in half, okay? Now, there's 3 options here. You stay the course, you try and time the market, get out of it, get back in, or you liquidate and you never get back in, okay? And so what Brinston B. Bauer and Hood did when they won the Nobel Prize was they proved that if you just stayed the course, about a decade after you started investing, you would have doubled your assets, even with the worst recession in human history. Okay. So you'd be at $175,000. If you exited the market, tried to time the market for 1 year, you would have ended back 10 years later, right where you started at about 100,000. And if you exited the market and never got back in, you really would have been in a world of hurt. Okay. And so what I always tell people is don't try and time the market. Don't think that you're smarter than, smarter than the stock market or smarter than, different investment managers. Just stay the course. Don't try and time the winning asset class. Okay. If Kramer is talking about it, or if you're seeing it on the news, you're probably a day late and probably $1 short. Okay. You want to buy a diversified portfolio over a broad range of investment selection in a bunch of different asset classes. Today's winner is often tomorrow's loser. So if you look at this chart, I know it's a little bit blurred out. It goes through 2016, but basically every asset class for the last 20 years that has had the highest return is usually a lower return the next year. So that's what I wanted you to focus on was if you're hearing about it in the news, you're already late. It's already been priced in. You're going to lose. And then the final one that we wanted to talk about was OPM or hard money. And why I like this method too, you can, if you have cash on the sidelines, you as an investor can either loan out money or you can, borrow money from somebody. Generally, in today's environment, we're seeing people 8 to 16% interest only debt. And you can use this money to acquire property. Same thing, make renovations, get the property rented, and then refinance your capital out. The biggest hurdle that we're seeing right now is appraisals, especially in Texas. We're seeing a lot of appraisals come in short. If you guys are not seeing that in your area, this may be a great way to get started and do it without having to come up with any capital. But that's the biggest hurdle that we're seeing right now in Texas is the debt service carry, because you can't control the uncontrollables like construction or supply chain, those different types of things. But all in all, it goes from most conservative in the cash value life insurance all the way up to most aggressive in the other people's money or hard money. So the ultimate goal, income for all your tomorrow. Stay focused on your goal. Don't be swayed by emotions or the news. Guys, this is how to get a hold of me. Before I throw in the chat the attendance link, I'm going to throw this in here right now for you guys. So give me 1 second. So if you guys can copy and paste this link over here to the right that's in the chat, enter in all of your information. If you guys could just do me a huge favor and knock that out. That would be greatly appreciated. If you guys have any questions at all and you guys want to throw a question in the chat right now, I'm happy to answer those also. Any questions at all? Awesome. Well, guys, I really appreciate all the time today. Thank you so much. Your hour will show up. Once you guys fill this in, this link right here, we will get this knocked out for you and in on the state's website. And then this should show up in the next day or two inside of your online portal. So if you guys have any questions at all, don't hesitate to reach out. Again, use this link. Make sure you enter in all of your information. We do need all that to record this with the state of Texas, with the TREC, and we'll get that going for you guys. So thank you so much for your time. Hopefully you guys found this to be beneficial. Don't keep us a secret. Let us know if there's anything that we can do for you guys.